And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We're talking what was a very fan-friendly, if you were into the British drivers, Friday practice. With Lewis Hamilton fastest in FP1, Lando Norris fastest in FP2. What does it mean? What's going on with the Mercedes team? Any more Verstappen rumours? And Christian Horner wants Piastri. Really? So here was the result of, I couldn't quite believe it was happening while I was watching it. Practice 1, Lewis Hamilton, fastest. Second, Lando Norris. Third, Oscar Piastri. So for you Ferrari fans, for the Tifosi, there is a reason at least on Friday to smile. We'll see if it's going to happen on Saturday. One of the main reasons is because the weather is going to get cooler as the weekend goes along, seemingly. So this was it. Hamilton fastest by, okay, it was only 23 thousandths or 200ths of a second, but they were both over a tenth faster than Oscar Piastri, who was third. Charles Leclerc showing Ferrari may have found some form at least on Friday, being 2/10 off Hamilton. George Russell at 0.271. Isaac Hadjar in that top 10. Alex Albon in 7th, and Liam Lawson 8th. Kimi Antonelli in 9th, and Max Verstappen in 10th, just over half a second down. No, that is not the Red Bull we need, really, if I'm honest. But then, from 11th to 20th, it was Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll, Carlos Sainz, yep, Arvid Lindblad. He was the stand-in for Yuki Tsunoda, the Red Bull tester, well, a Red Bull tester, testing essentially in free practice 1, one of the rookies. Esteban Ocon 15th, and then we had Colapinto, Paul Aaron again testing in the Kick Sauber, Oliver Behrman, Pierre Gasly, and rounding out the top 20, well, I say top 20, but that's it. It's Gabriel Bortoletto. I don't think he'll be too happy. Top 20. I was in the top 20. Almost sounds better than I was last, I guess. But yeah, let's talk about Ferrari. P1 and P4. Not bad at all. And they were quick off the block. It wasn't just a fluke, as free practice 2 has shown. But, and the big part comes, is this all weather dependent? That is the scary thing. That's possibly making Ferrari fans still quiver in fear after this bit of hope. Will it all go Pete-tong wrong tomorrow? I guess they're going to be having their fingers, their legs, their arms and their toes crossed for a good Ferrari Saturday and Sunday. But one thing interesting Leclerc said after free practice 2 was think about the race. Don't change the setup too much. They've done that before, haven't they? And really gone wrong. But take a pause from practice for a second, because
teammates on the pit
let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at the Lando stand. You can see Lando. There it is. There's the stand. You can see Lando waving. I mean, absolute mega. And we're not talking stand. We're talking stands. Yes, plural. The Lando stand. I mean, it just looks absolutely mega. As does Lando's car. But look at that. It's not quite the sea of luminous fluorescent, but it's certainly getting there, isn't it? From the Lando. And here is another view.
From the beginning of Maggots.
There we go, look, waving to the Lando stand at Stowe.
2 cars ahead still to go.
Thank you very much. Here we go again. Hello world. Hello Lando. I think that's so brilliant that they've done that. It's fantastic, isn't it? So let's go to free practice 2. And free practice 2, we saw Lando Norris. A fairly dominant Lando Norris, if I'm honest. And then second, Charles Leclerc. Third, Lewis Hamilton. But let's have a look at those times. So we had Lando Norris over 2/10 faster than anyone else, because Charles Leclerc was 0.222 behind. Then about just over 3/10, and we're talking a thousandth over 3/10, was Lewis Hamilton. Then it was Oscar Piastri, nearly half a second down, along with Max Verstappen. Kimi Antonelli, best part of 6/10 down, along with Lance Stroll in 7th. That's not looking too bad, is it? 6/10 down, or just over. George Russell in 9th, about 7/10 down. Isaac Hadjar and Liam Lawson in that top 10. So the Racing Bulls are looking quite sweet. Then we had Alexander Albon in 11th, just over a second. Fernando Alonso, Gabriel Bortoletto, Esteban Ocon, Yuki Tsunoda 15th, 1.1 seconds down. So about 6/10 off his teammate when you look at it. Carlos Sainz in 16th, Nico Hülkenberg, Pierre Gasly, Oliver Behrman, and sadly Franco Colapinto last, albeit he is just over a tenth slower than Pierre Gasly. So Alpine quite clearly struggling in that free practice. So P1 and P4 this time for McLaren. They're going to be looking quite tidy. Lando is going to be at least going to bed on Friday with a smile, as I imagine he did in Austria. And look how that weekend went. So we're going to have our fingers crossed. We're very much going to see. But it was P2 and P3 for Mercedes. For Leclerc and Hamilton, Scuderia Ferrari. I mean, yes, I kind of can't help but feel to a certain degree it is going to be that temperature, but could be the track as well. And then remember, they've now had an extra race and an extra practice 1 and 2 to get that floor sorted and, you know, amalgamate it with their car setup, and that could be a lot to do with it as well. Sadly, the suspension wasn't here. So P6 and P8, George and Kimi. That's not really great, is it? When we reverse, I mean, George Russell 7 tenths down, or just over. Kimi, you know, about 5.5 tenths down, and that's probably not what they. That's not what they wanted, really. That's not what the doctor ordered. Having said that, George was quite philosophical in the interviews. He said, okay, yeah, wasn't great, but we know how bad we are with the temperature, and the weekend is going to get cooler. So, yeah, fair enough. So, this was the lap delta. Obviously, Lando Norris fastest, Leclerc to 2 tenths, Hamilton 3 tenths, and it goes all the way from Colapinto in kind of like a bar chart. We like bar charts from school, but this is what I thought was interesting. British GP, FP2, because I think the practice 2 is more telling, and that's what the time, roughly around the time of qualifying is going to be, and that's going to be the time the race is going to be. And, well, it was Norris, Hamilton, and Leclerc, and where they're fastest. Hamilton only fastest in one part. That was after the loop going down the Wellington Straight. Norris obviously being the fastest, as the most dominant. And then you've got the... it's really a mixture between Leclerc and Norris in terms of the fast corners and some of the straights. It's going to be really interesting in qualifying if that plays out. Now, Norris's top speed was 320, Leclerc's was 322, Hamilton's was 324. Yes, only 2 kilometres difference. Does that mean, though, there's a slight wing setup difference? Does that mean Lewis Hamilton is looking more for the race, even though, obviously, as we said, Leclerc mentioned it? I think that is quite telling. Is Lando is quite happy with that, because if he's going to go from the front, this circuit can be quite tire abrasive at times. So when you look at the here's obviously the long runs. Ferrari looking, I mean, they're pretty much the most spread out. Hamilton definitely most certainly was amongst the long ones. You know, fairly fast and really inconsistent. They're fairly slow. So I'm not too sure what that's really going to mean. I mean, Verstappen was fairly impressive in the long runs, as was obviously Norris and Piastri. But yeah, a real mishmash for Hamilton of lap times. I don't know how much I don't really know how much you would have got hold up. So that's obviously these long run data, but this is the lap sections, which I think is quite interesting, because as you can see, Lewis Hamilton, again, the master of the brakes, as is Norris and Leclerc. But when it comes to the cornering, Piastri's really, really strong. You also have to take a setup in relation to this as well. So in the accelerating, it's both McLarens, but more Piastri, and then full throttle, it is very, very close. I mean, you know, we're talking, Leclerc obviously best on that full throttle. Then Hamilton, not by much. And Antonelli, though, is the king of the full throttle, but if it was to believe, but that doesn't always come with the lap time, because as we know, he's about half a second down. But I just thought it was quite an interesting stat. Top speeds, though, as we've already talked about, the Hamilton and the Lando speeds, but it was Verstappen 325, 32. You know, not bad. As we know, Red Bull DRS, very, very good. And there's 2 DRS zones here. So we have Bortoletto, Tsunoda, and Colapinto all on 324. The slowest was Stroll on 317. But he's in the top 10 and faster than his teammate Alonso, who's on 320. Having said that, it's practice. How much can we buy into practice? I don't know. But this is Lando's helmet, which I thought was really, really nice. It's standard helmet with a bit of a British Grand Prix loop thing going on there. A couple of them. I do like his helmet, as I do, obviously, his top. It is nice. This was... this made me laugh. This was Christian Horner, when asked if he has a plan B if Verstappen were to leave. Have a listen.
For plan B, in case he were to leave.
You know, Oscar Piastri. so
for plan B.
Okay. A lot of people are going, oh no, this is really serious. No, I mean, you saw himself. Look, he's kind of joking, isn't he?
Were to leave.
Looking at Zach, he knows Oscar's not going to Red Bull.
You know, Oscar Piastri. so
He's almost
So,
apologising.
the
He's almost
plan-
apologising there. So plan B, Oscar Piastri apparently, but it's going to take something. Obviously, if this was serious, which I don't think it is, to lure Oscar Piastri to Red Bull. Because why would he? At the moment, he's leading the World Championship in a papaya McLaren, sponsored by Monster. So it's going to be, that will be interesting, won't it? If that played it, I don't think this is going to happen. This is obviously Max Verstappen
not clear.
quite upset with his car.
Yeah, luckily it isn't.
You
Talking
got
of- This is basically, this is from Verstappen News. Verstappen News. This is obviously saying we couldn't quite hear you on the radio, and Max saying, you know, luckily you can't, or luckily it isn't, or the radio's not turned on.
Max, your radio's not clear.
Yeah, luckily it isn't.
You got
I imagine there were some expletives about how bad the car is, so I guess fair enough, Max. And last but not least, I thought this was really, really interesting. From, I think was it the Holiness? Well, yeah, I followed. Really, really awesome, awesome one to follow. All the links of the Twitter post, etc., are in the description. Some of them are absolutely amazing as well. As one of the telemetry guy I just showed you. But this is the cool cumulative performance upgrades for each team, which I think is quite... They obviously start there and they go China, Japan, all the way to Silverstone. Performance upgrades for each team, and Ferrari have had quite a few. Ferrari have had 14, Haas has 14, McLaren on 13, Red Bull on 13, Kicksauber 12, Aston Martin on 12, Racing Bulls 8, Alpine 7, now Mercedes on 6 and Williams on 5. As you can see there, Mercedes really didn't get going until about Miami. Ferrari got going from Japan. It was Stake if one got going from China. So did sort of McLaren. So yeah, I think that's quite interesting as to how many. But has that 14th upgrade really helped Ferrari? Potentially. But there we go. I'm going to leave you with FP1, a British 1-2. Could we have a British 1-2-3? Well, I think Mercedes need to do some thinking, and we've got to hope that the weather doesn't distract Ferrari too much from being fast. But only time will tell. If you made it to the end, please give us a subscribe. If you're not, if you're already subscribed, you just watching this is more than enough. But if you were to want to be a bit more helpful, give us a like, comment below, let us know what you think. Are you at Silverstone? And there are a few of you listening are at Silverstone. I'm hoping you guys have an absolutely awesome time. It's looking like it could be an amazing race, even if it is wet. I mean, that's just going to be a treat. Just remember last year, I mean, from the halfway point, we still had potentially at least 4 or 5 drivers, I think, at one point that could have won the race. Anyway, I digress. We'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much, and stay safe.